when they approached us to do it, it just felt like it already existed. Like, I tend to think of things in those terms, that everything has already occurred. Not from our point of view, we experience things in a line, but with music or an album or a project or whatever, or anything in life, it's just a case of feeling what already is and fulfilling it. John at the museum, John Coburn, approached me. I think he'd been working with Lee, who I've been working with for a while now, Lee Etherington. They approached me last June or July, would it be mid-July, about this project that we're working on, which basically they want artists to go into the archives and search for whatever they wanted to search for, and respond with half an hour of, well, probably music, but audio material for broadcast on this Basic FM, which is like a local internet station. I didn't realise they were open to the public, and I've lived here all my life. I didn't realise this was a service that you could use. But basically you go in, it's kind of in the bowels of the Discovery Museum. You go in and it's just very relaxed. The people there are friendly. You see people sitting around. You've got a number of search tables, very light room, full of books. It was difficult to know where to start at first, but gradually I honed it down. They've got search computers there, and how I started was typing in death, so search for anything with that in the title, accidents, disasters, black magic, all that kind of stuff. But the way their search engines work is everything they've got logged on their catalogue will show up with that keyword if it's logged with a keyword. If it doesn't have any keywords, which a lot of the files don't, it won't show up at all. And then I think it's only something like a third of the material in the archives is actually on the computer system. So even if you find something, you're only scratching the surface really. You've then got to go to the paper catalogues, find your entry through there, and then it gives you a whole lot more information about each one. But as you're doing that, you come across 4 or 5 other things which look really interesting, which was where that scrapbook came from. Basically, it's like a huge leather-bound volume from 1791, I think, started through till about 1820, and it's just full of newspaper clippings on murders, trials, executions, disasters, a lot of mining disasters, and shipping disasters as well as songs, loads and loads of songs, poems, and some recipes. An absolutely incredible object, really charged. Just full of stories. There's a few of the songs started from there. Poor old horse, poor old horse, yeah, what they did to the poor old horse. It's probably the most traditional sounding one on there, I think, in terms of like the language it uses. The whole album's got the kind of palette of sounding like folk songs. Melodically, I think it does a lot of the time. Yeah, Poor Old Horse is definitely the closest closest to that, but in a way that's probably because it stuck the closest to the words. The foreman came then with his knife, determined for to take its life. He took his aim and thrust it home. Alas, he hit the collarbone. Poor old horse, poor old horse. Hear what they did to the poor old horse. They broke its leg with a rusty spade, then all upon it heavily laid. To quell the struggle each did their part, until the blade had reached its heart. Poor old horse, poor old horse, hear what they did to the poor old horse. Now each he goes his separate path, for a cup full of ale or an ice hot bath, a kiss on the lips of a wife newly wed, or a look at the baby sleeping in bed. I kind of had the central refrain with the chorus, the poor old horse chorus. Started with that and then just kind of wrote it from there, just using dictaphone, just literally would just sit with it and hum or sing a tune, just keep going back over it and back over it and back over it until the right tune came out, and just building it up line by line until you had a whole verse melody in effect. And the way every song on the album has this structure of there's a verse, but the next corresponding verse, each second verse is a slightly different reflection of that first verse. So it goes in that 1-2-1-2 formation. So once I had those two verses and the central refrain, then you can then build the structure of the song from there and start writing the words. So it's quite simple, quite straightforward, different way of writing with a guitar. But Poor Old Horse was relatively easy to write in that the structure of the story was already there. The story's there, all you got to do is follow it through and write it in your own words in effect. Look at the baby sleeping in bed. Poor old horse, poor old horse, hear what they did to the poor old horse. Poor old horse, poor old horse, hear what they did to the poor old horse. Yeah! In the original, it's kind of quite, it has a different ending. In the original, it lifts the guys up almost, and what bold men these are to have performed this duty. The horse had to go, it's an old knackered working horse, and it's not a pleasant job for them, whereas our version certainly doesn't judge the guys for doing it, but it ends with the question of what effect this has had on them, rather than a celebration. Riding through Yorkshire, we come upon the ghost of a tree at Buttertub's Pass, golden and green, flapping its leaves, though it is winter and there is no breeze.
7 little sparrows, pale as soldiers, hopping in amongst the curling boughs.
There's a lot of trust involved in just meeting somebody for a pint, I think. So times that by however much to be in a room with them and be expressing yourself, it's quite a thing. When this project came together, it just seemed like we had the songs, but it was like they weren't enough on their own. They seemed like suspended somehow, like there was no landscape for them to be occurring on. So I felt like there needed to be like a structural element almost to provide this place in which the stories could kind of emerge. And so yeah, the structure of the album is basically 7 songs, begins and ends with a song, and then in between each one there's 2-minute long guitar and harp improvisations in between every song, almost in similar themes, so almost again like mirrors of each other cropping up there. And it was just very primal with Rodri. He's a very very, very primal guy. He's so well practiced and such a good musician that he's confident enough to just go in, and he is very much about channeling and going with the energy of the day. It's quite a thing. So over the course of the day, I think we did something like 66 takes of these minute pieces, starting off really, really violent and then gradually simmering it down over the course until by the end we were just bowing long, straight passages. So it was that idea of this almost like this explosion and then everything settling down over the course of the album, just this sense of a slow descent.